President Trump tonight under fire for spreading misinformation about the coronavirus after retweeting a video showing a group of doctors in lab coats falsely claiming there's a cure for the disease and that masks and shutdowns are not necessary to stop its spread.
They're very respected doctors. There was a woman who was spectacular in her statements about it.
In the clip, a Houston doctor who's pushed conspiracy theories and blamed some medical issues on demon spirits aggressively promotes hydroxychloroquine as part of a COVID cure.
None of us have gotten sick. It works.
She's also made videos saying that doctors make medicine using DNA from aliens.
I can tell you this. She was on air along with many other doctors. They were big fans of hydroxychloroquine, but I know nothing about her.
Then the president abruptly walked out of his briefing.
North Korea will no longer need to fight wars because its nuclear arsenal will permanently guarantee national safety. That's what North Korean leader Kim Jong-un said during a speech commemorating the 67th anniversary of the Armistice Agreement, which effectively ended the Korean War. The North State mouthpiece, the Korean Central News Agency, reported Tuesday that Kim had touted the regime's so-called reliable and effective self-defense war deterrence and that it will protect against, quote, any form of high-pressure and military threats from imperialist and hostile forces. He said that fierce struggles with enemies since the Korean War and pressure is why the regime has developed nuclear weapons, which Kim now believes help North Korea defend itself. Kim's comments come amid stalled talks between Pyongyang and Washington, and with the North also facing a deepening economic fallout from the global coronavirus pandemic and crippling global sanctions.
Yair Netanyahu, the 29-year-old social media-savvy son of Israel's prime minister, is making headlines for all the wrong reasons. He wrote to us this evening. Here's a tweet. He said, "I love India, Jai Hind." The story behind it goes back to the weekend. On Sunday, Netanyahu Jr. tweeted a photo. It was a superimposed image of Hindu goddess Durga. Her many arms were raised with some indecent gestures. The caption read, "Know your place, you despicable people." His tweet was offensive. Many in India criticized Yair Netanyahu for insulting Hinduism. Some Twitter users did give him the benefit of doubt. They said that he may be ignorant about the Hindu faith, but overall the response was not in his favor. So he was forced to take the photo down. He followed with an apology, and I'm quoting, "I've tweeted a meme from a satirical page criticizing political figures in Israel. I did not realize the meme also portrayed an image connected to the majestic Hindu faith. I apologize."
Just hours after a fatal crash in Bangkok, Thai police detained a suspect. Warriut Yuwitiya was questioned by police over the death of a policeman in a hit-and-run incident. But he was soon released, and 8 years on, police have announced the case is closed.
We have received a final order from the Attorney General to not prosecute Warriut on charges of reckless driving and causing the deaths of others.
Warriut admitted being behind the wheel of his Ferrari when it crashed at high speed into the policeman's motorbike. But for years he failed to appear in court after being summoned and was out of the country when arrest warrants were issued. He's the grandson of the inventor of Red Bull. The parent company in Thailand issued a statement distancing itself from the case. Now, several investigations have been launched, including one by a parliamentary committee into how the case was handled.
Regis Philbin's cause of death has been revealed. It was heart disease, according to Connecticut's chief medical examiner. Regis's heart issues are well documented. In 1993, he underwent an angioplasty. In 2007, he had triple bypass and got a rousing reception when he returned to Live with Regis and Kelly.
Oh my God. Finally back after 6 weeks.
2 years later, he had hip replacement surgery, finding humor on his first show back with a walker. By all accounts, Regis had a happy home life with wife Joy and his 3 daughters. But he suffered a tragic loss when his son Danny, who was born with a spinal cord defect, died in 2014.
A 13-year trail has brought them here, a garden in Hannover, Germany. Investigators may be breaking ground after over a decade of dead ends as they search for Maddie McCann. The prime suspect in her case, a 43-year-old German man. He's already in prison, serving time for a separate crime. The search for McCann began in 2007 at this holiday resort in the Algarve in Portugal. The 3-year-old girl disappeared from her bed while her parents were eating dinner at a nearby restaurant. Finally, in June, a glimmer of hope. Investigators announced a suspect, a German man who was in the Algarve when McCann disappeared. German authorities, however, said they were no longer investigating Maddie McCann's disappearance as a missing person case, but as a murder.
Police have seized numerous weapons, ISIS training manuals, and the so-called ISIS Black Standard during a raid linked to a kidnapping, according to reports. The suspects kidnapped businessmen for ransom, demanding it to be paid in Bitcoin in order to fund Islamic extremist operations in Africa.
Yeah, good afternoon, Jeremy. Well, this is a plot, a small holding out in the Vaal area south of Johannesburg. Police were led there on an investigation into the kidnapping of a 72-year-old man who was taken on the 2nd of July. This was a crime intelligence-led operation. They raided the property last week, Thursday. At the scene, they and following from there, they arrested 5 suspects. But what they found there was a number of firearms, AK-47. We've got hunting rifles, as well as an Uzi submachine gun, several handguns. But then the ISIS training manuals, that's what we're told, and also an ISIS flag.
Surrounded by friends, relatives and thousands of supporters, opposition leader and potential presidential candidate Tundu Lissu returned home to Tanzania on Monday, ahead of an election in October. Lissu, currently vice chairman of the Chadema opposition movement, took exile in Belgium after a gun attack in 2017. The fierce critic of President John Magufuli was shot 16 times, mostly in the lower abdomen, by unknown gunmen. At the time, Magufuli condemned the attack and ordered an investigation, though no arrests were made. Lissu plans to vie for the presidency in general elections scheduled for the end of October, as long as he wins his party's primary. He would be up against incumbent Magufuli.
Italy has long struggled to handle waves of migrants crossing the Mediterranean, and the COVID crisis has really intensified the problem. In fact, now so much so, the government's planning to send troops to Sicily after scores of refugees escaped quarantine and fled a detention centre.
It's the nuclear reaction that powers the sun and the stars, and scientists from around the world are hoping that hydrogen fusion could provide endless energy here on Earth. Assembly of the massive reactor that would do the job is now underway in the south of France. The International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor, or ITER, works by heating hydrogen atoms to 10 times the temperature of the sun's core, forcing them to fuse together and releasing energy that will be trapped in this vessel called a tokamak. Unlike nuclear fission, the process used in nuclear power plants, nuclear fusion releases no radioactive waste. Its fuel is found in seawater and lithium, both in abundant supply. The project to build the reactor was launched in 2006 by 35 countries.